Hello everyone, and welcome to the third episode of the first season of the FIP CEO interviews. Today I am delighted to welcome Dr. Carmen Pena, immediate past president of FIP, to the interview chair. Many of you will know that Carmen is the first female president of FIP. Thank you so much, Carmen, for making time for us and your busy agenda, especially during these strange COVID-19 times we're living in. I wanted to welcome you to our first season of the FIP CEO interviews. We are running 10 interviews in this season with global leaders and colleagues in pharmacy and healthcare, where we seek to explore your journey, your experiences, and the impact of those experiences on your professional practice. I was inspired to start these discussions after the FIP president, Dominique Jourdain, and myself were having a discussion with Professor Trevor Jones around the development of a vaccine and treatments for COVID-19. Trevor walked us through his experiences with AZT in the 90s and the 80s, and how invaluable those lessons have been for now. Not only was he so open about what had gone well, he also spoke about what hadn't gone to plans. He was enthusiastic to share these experiences and learnings. And it made me reflect on how important it is for our pharmacy leaders to be able to share such insights, to be able to share experiences when things go well and when they don't quite go to plan, and what we can learn from such experiences. So Carmen, I'm so proud to interview you today, this first season of interviews, first FIP president, as I mentioned, and my first female interviewee. And I can't wait to hear some of your insights with our profession and maybe some life lessons for me too. Welcome, Carmen.
Thank you. Thank you, Catherine. It's a pleasure to hear you. And that the first thing is to thank you. Thank you for inviting me to these interviews that I am sure that there will be very, very interesting. And let me say only my first words only to send my condolences for those who passed away because of the COVID-19. Millions of people, thousands of deceased, and also thousands of health professionals, including pharmacists, that they were affected, and part of them, they passed away for this horrible virus. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, Carmen. You're quite right. These are sober times we live in, and it's very important that we remember those who have passed during this time. Thank you. Carmen, we aim to take about 30 minutes of your time. There's no time limit. But before we get to the professional elements of the interview, let's start at the very beginning for you. We'll come to your biography and your professional journey. But Carmen, can you tell us a little bit about your childhood, where you came from, where you went to school, and what are your inspirations for choosing pharmacy?
Well, it's every day I am older, I think more in my childhood, in my adolescence, because it was a good, a happy childhood, and maybe a bit boring because I am a restless person, and I was a restless girl who needed to discover things and to discover the world, and I have to say that I sure did it. I had a wonderful parents, a sister, older sister, that she's also pharmacist, who taught, supported, trusted me, and maybe all the impact of my life, the most important person in my life regarding the rest of all the things that I did was my mother. But she passed away, but she was my inspiration in everything. She was an educated, feminist woman, although she never made it explicit, because we have to think that she was a woman who was born in the 20s of last century in Spain, in Europe, and the culture was completely different. But she studied in the university, that in that moment only a few women were to the university, and she gave us, to my sister and I, a very stimulate education to be a free woman. Free women, hardworking, and she always said, you have to search of truth and justice in your life. And this is my childhood. Later, I went to the university in Madrid, in Spain, in the public, in one of the most, I think one of the best faculties of pharmacy in Spain, the Complutense University of Madrid in Spain. I studied pharmacy. Later, I received my doctorate degree also in the same university, and I start my professional life until now.
Amazing. Come back to some of these influences on you, Carmen, because I think they run through you like a golden thread. This idea that you have a strong woman in your mother and your sister who gave you the wings to fly, we'll come back to. And it's lovely to hear that you were a double degree from your university in Spain. Carmen, I was looking at your biography. It would take me the entire interview and maybe longer to detail your career's achievements to date. But I note your doctorate in pharmacy, as you say, from the Complutense University of Madrid in Spain, and your background in community pharmacy. We'll come on to that in a minute. But in addition, General Secretary of the Spanish Consejo General of Pharmacists, President of the Spanish Consejo, Vice President of FIP, and the first female President of FIP. So, Carmen, I mentioned at the beginning of the interview, the lessons we learn along the way don't just come from our successes. What would you say are the three biggest lessons of your career that you have had to date?
Well, I think that one of the most important lessons I've learned is that it's essential to have strong and loyal teams, and that everything is possible. Everything is possible if we have determination, perseverance, and of course, honesty. I think that everything is possible to achieve. There are no, we have to think as women, but also as men, that there are no walls if you want to do it. If you have, as I told you, a good team supporting you, helping you, respecting, but also giving all the honest opinion to cross over all the challenges that you find at personal and of course at professional level. I think that this is the most important things. They are apparently simple, but they are very strong to achieve everything that you need in your life. That is not so much. They are not so big. The important things, there are a few, but it's very important try to achieve them.
Yes, and what I hear from you, Carmen, there is that a lot of these lessons come from the values you want from a team in your personal and professional life. And for a woman such as yourself, you've had to mix personal and professional because, you know, being a president takes up a lot of your personal time as well. So you need these traits in both sides of your life. You need people you can rely on. Absolutely. So Carmen, when we go on to the next question, we think about the awards that you have received, the things that you can be very proud of. And again, I'm looking at these and they are hugely notable. The Grand Cross of the Civil Order of Health of Spain, the Academy of Pharmaceutical Scientists of Japan, Woman Scientist in 2015. Again, look at that notable achievement for women there. The Medal of Pharmaceutical Merit of the Brazilian Federal Council of Pharmacists, the Academic of the Royal Academy of Pharmacy of Spain. You've got several here. You've got the Ibero-American Academy of Pharmacy and Honorary Academic of the Medical Surgical Academy of Spain, and multiple other recognitions and honours of Spain and countries of the world. Now, Carmen, we know that when we list our CVs, it's the tip of the iceberg. For you, Carmen, what are your three biggest achievements to date?
Well, I have, it depends on what we think that is achievements. one thing, as you said, and I am very, very honored to have these awards, because it's a recognition that people appreciate, at least that you have done regarding, in this case, the pharmacy, no, with capital letters. But regarding achievements, to me, the real achievement sometimes, and thinking in my two organizations that I served all my life, because I started, as you said, I am community pharmacist, but I started with 27 in Consejo at political level, and I've been there for more than 20 years. And at the same time, in the last 12 years, I shared this work with FIP, because I always understood that everything that we have to plan regarding pharmacy inside the health has to be at global level. And now I am thinking that I was right, that we have, as WHO said in the past, we have to think global and act local. It's my style of life, a professional life. But regarding my achievements in Consejo in Spain, and also in FIP at global level, I have to tell you that maybe the most important things that I did, sometimes it's better that they are so transcendent for us that it's better to be cautious and let me to keep them to myself, even in benefit of the future of the pharmacy, because pharmacy is so big, is so relevant for the society and for the world, for the health of the world, that sometimes the politicians and the governments don't understand what really important is the role of the pharmacist inside the society, not only a health matter, a health level, also at social and even at economic level, because it's a very, very efficient profession inside the health system. And the really, to me, important achievements that I achieved to this, or I did, they are so big. I don't want to be pretentious, but big regarding the importance for the profession, that I have to protect themselves to future, because sure that there will be repeat, and we'll have to use the things that we did, and maybe to use new tools to manage these situations. But I have to tell you that sometimes, as the people say, our value is more for the things that we don't say than for the things that we say.
Wise advice, Carmen. And also, the three biggest achievements today may be different tomorrow. I will say one thing to you. I think that your work in leading the women's roles in community and the responsible use of medicines is something that FIP will look back on in decades and think this is so important. If you think, Carmen, how much that work, when we published it last year, spoke about supporting women in communities globally to help families with vaccine hesitancy and with managing minor ailments. Think about how important that is in COVID-19. So you are ahead of the curve on that. Now, Carmen, for me, you being the first female president was a complete signal for me personally to apply for the role as Chief Executive Officer. And I always believe you need to see people in positions of authority and leadership to believe and understand that as a woman, you can aspire and attain those roles too. Who was a woman in leadership who inspired you?
Well, as I told you at the beginning of our conversation, my inspiration was and is my mother. And for this reason, the thing that you are saying, that I thank you for your words, but it's a logical situation of an style of education that I received. And I put, or I imprint this culture in everything that I have to work in it. For example, regarding FIP, as you said, I was the first female in the presidency of the Spain Consejo, that is the biggest association of pharmacists in Spain. The first female in 100 years. Also, the first female in FIP. Even more, the first, not female, the first human being that arrived to this position speaking in Spanish, because sometimes it's the idea of the diversity, the idea of that we have to fight for the right, the human rights in general of everybody, of course, of the half of the population that there are women, but also other part of the world of the human being that they are very important for the full humanity, but sometimes they don't have voice and they don't have a vote to change things to better. To me, it was very, very gratificant for me to in my presidency in FIP that I, at least, as you said, to open minds to young women in other parts of the world when they don't have so many support to develop at professional level, to develop at in the industry, in other positions, in other professions, and at least to open minds to this kind of young people, women, that they can say, okay, if this lady, if this woman can achieve, I can do it. And with this, and I think that it's work, because it was for to me, the example of my mother and other great women that I met in my life, show me that if I wanted to do something, I have to work for that, because it's possible to achieve it. And this, well, I don't want to say something that maybe for every other persons don't care, but for example, that you, Catherine Dugan, so brilliant pharmacist that she was a very high position inside the Royal Pharmaceutical Society, wanted to be with FIP, to serve, to work with us, to help us, as the first CEO female in FIP after 100 years. To me, with this is my treasure. This is my part of my legacy, because it's that brilliant women can achieve where they want to be, because not only because they want, it's because they are necessary for these positions to support and to help other things. And sorry, but let me say that I am very proud of your work during these years, that half and 1 year that you are working in FIP as CEO, but in this pandemic, with the President Dominique Jordan, you are doing an amazing work supporting the rest of the pharmacists of the world, and giving visibility to the work of and the role of the pharmacist. Thank you, Catherine. It's not, I have to use this moment to say, because it's very important that FIP, with the President and the current CEO, are doing for the rest of pharmacists of the world. And I want to say you that, thank you very much.
Carmen, I'm really touched by that, and you're quite right. You and I would normally have chance to see each other and hold each other by the hands and say, I support you, and we are missing this. So thank you. I take your comments in my heart. I really do. What I hear from you, Carmen, all the time, we'll come on to the things you're most proud of now, but I hear the drive that you have. And you described yourself as restless at the start. You were a restless young girl. I see that you don't just want to get to a position of power or authority, but you want to allow people, women or other people from across the world, to get to those positions themselves. And that leads me to the question, what are the 3 things you are most proud of? I can tell you how I can see 3 things that you are most proud of, but I wanted to hear it from you.
Maybe it's to say in a sentence that is at least that I think that to have left the organizations Consejo and FIP that I served in them, to live them a bit better than how I found them. It's, at least it's very extremely simple, but it has a lot of deep matters inside this idea. Is to serve to live things better than when you enter in this organization. This is my, I think that my is more virtual proud that I have is to leave this organization better than how I found it. Maybe it sounds not very, a bit pretentious, but is to explain that the only that people ask you, pharmacists, people at, in the streets, etc., is that you can build a better world, a better, only with small steps, but a better world that regarding that you received. And it was my objective, and I think that at least in my two great organizations I served, I can do it. I can do it. This is.
I think this really feeds onto your comment earlier on, Carmen, about think global, act local. So in the organizations you are leading, you need to hold them tight and bring them to a better place. It's a very good legacy, and something I think I'm going to put in my notebook myself. Leave the place you are in a bit better than when you found it. It's a very good legacy for everything we do in our lives, Carmen. Everything, you know, sustainability, the environment, being a woman in leadership, being a woman who speaks Spanish, because all of the world who speaks Spanish finds people like me very difficult to understand. So, you know, we all put ourselves in the other person's foot and shoe. Thank you. Now, Carmen, right at the beginning of the interviews, we mentioned how important it is to reflect for the next generation so that they don't necessarily make the same mistakes that we've made or take as long as we take to get success. From the very start of this interview, you've been talking about the generation before you and the inspiration your mother has been. What would be your 3 top tips to the next generation? If you had young pharmacists and young pharmaceutical scientists in front of you, what are the 3 things you would tell them?
Yes, thinking in 3 things, I think that first of all, to advance professional development at individual and at collective level as pharmacists or as health professionals, to advance professional development. Second, maybe to strengthen alliance between the different areas of pharmacy. Again, pharmacy in capital letters. I speak about science, research, university, industry, hospital, clinical biology, distribution, community pharmacy, etc. Is to strengthen alliance between us, because it's not easy to show our power at professional and scientific level if we don't have a unit, a strong unit at internal level as pharmacists in all the areas of our work. And maybe the third one is a bit external, that is to fight in the good way, to fight for the leadership of pharmacy and pharmacists in health policies and in health legislations in everywhere in the world. We have to be more present as pharmacists in all the tables of power regarding the health of the citizens.
Yes, you're so right. COVID-19 has really showed us, Carmen, or shown the world what we already know, the value of having pharmacy in all communities, the value of having access to medicines through pharmacies in all communities and having the pharmacist in those pharmacies. It could not be a better advocacy. We knew this already, but the COVID-19 has really exemplified this hugely. Yes, Carmen, I promise my commitment to you is that for our younger pharmacists and scientists, we will advance and strengthen alliances and fight the good fight, I promise you. So Carmen, we move to end our interview, and I'm going to now ask you, what are the 3 essentials in your working life, especially during this COVID-19 For me, coffee has developed a new importance during COVID-19, but I just wondered, what were your 3 essentials in your working life? Makes life easier.
Well, as you said, the pandemic, and you have been and you are already working very hard to fight against the pandemic, not only finding or supporting people looking for vaccines and antivirals, also preparing our profession to do the best health professionals is our vision, no? I think that to hit the pandemic, the pandemic has brought us a lot of pain, we know, uncertainty, that we continue with this uncertainty, but has also taught us what is truly important in life. And when we revise, it's a period of our time, even the lockdown, the isolation gave us the opportunity to rethink everything in our life and to restructure our priorities at human beings, at global level. I am speaking at individual, but also at as collective. Well, let me say that regarding the half of the population that are women, the COVID-19 has evidenced 3 things, 3 issues that we have to solve. We knew, but the COVID highlight them more even than in the past. First, that mainly women assume all family and social functions related the care. And in these days of COVID-19, the care at home, the life at home was more important. The second is women and their children sadly have suffered an increase in domestic violence during this health crisis. This is horrible, but the figures are there. And third, that women are the majority group of health professionals, including pharmacists, fighting against the COVID. Besides pharmacists, we, as health professionals, we are in the front line of risk. And we have been and will continue being an essential service since our rule, and once again, and we have been to work, like always, for and with the patient and the society. This is our strength. This is our flag. The flag of pharmacists, our flag is the flag of the patients and the flag of the society, who need us more than the past, even because the pandemic showed this. For this reason, we have to think in men and women, children, in all, but we have to reinforce as society, reinforce the need to not to protect, it's only to give all the power to women of the world to cut with this dysfunction that is to be sometimes and a lot of maybe in too much in part of the world that they are or we are very alone regarding the human rights. For the reason, my idea is that we have to work together. Pharmacists, women and men, we have to be very close to the patients, like always, but please put a bit more interest in the work at global level in different parts of the world of these women that they are suffering because they are caring of the families, they are caring of the children, they are not well treated inside their homes. And of course, they are health professionals. They are pharmacists, physicians, nurses, and they are working in front line of the risk, helping the society and helping the patients. And we have to give more visibility to this role inside our politicians in the international organizations, because they need to support more this role.
Oh, Carmen, I think we're going to have another series of webinars and online events to address this. Like you say, the COVID has been like a spotlight on, or a magnifying glass on things that were happening already. Frontline workers, domestic violence, fighting the good fight at the front line, but also social care and home care. Women's roles in this are really, really huge, and we can't do it without the men that we work with and the men that we live with. So I think we should do a series on this, Carmen. I will take this offline with you, but I think this will be a great one. The role of women and professionals in society would be a very good series. And FIP needs to shine a light on this. And given that we're both women in leadership positions, you as the first president and me as the first CEO, I think it's down to us to do this, Carmen. It also gives me a good opportunity to speak with you again more regularly and more frequently. So I will be in touch. Thank you so much, Carmen. It has been such a pleasure and an honor to spend time with you today. And I look forward to the new series that you and I can develop offline. Thank you, Carmen.
Thank you. Thank you. Take care, please. Thank you.